Hey friends, my name is Emily from Pointer's Place and I am sharing my third trimester symptoms and kind of experience here, mostly for my memory's sake, but hopefully it's something that is fun to watch and look back on for me and for others too. So the last video I did, I kind of went through my symptoms and I think I'm gonna kind of follow a similar format. So the first thing I noticed was that a lot of the fatigue that I experienced in my first trimester kind of came back. Daily naps were a necessity for this last trimester. Second thing is Braxton Hicks. I experienced those starting at the end of my second trimester, but they became more frequent. It was like daily from like 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. every day. Not always painful, but just highly annoying, especially towards the end where I didn't really know, like, was this labor? Is this just Braxton Hicks? I just didn't really know what was going on, and so it was a little bit frustrating, especially when I was very ready for labor to start. The third thing was acid reflux. This was a daily occurrence and it wasn't really something that food seemed to make a huge difference with. It just kind of happened no matter what I ate or what I did. So that was not super fun, but I don't know. And the funny thing is he did end up coming out with a lot of hair, so maybe the old wives' tale is true about acid reflux. The next thing I experienced was swelling. I was really swollen. I'm sure if you look back in my last video and even this one and just like compare how my face looks, it's crazy. My face got super swollen. My feet got super swollen, my hands were super swollen, I couldn't wear my wedding rings, my legs were swollen, everything was just like so full of just water. So I did try to do Epsom salt baths and that seemed to help, and on top of that we don't really eat a whole lot of processed food, so I didn't feel like it was diet related necessarily either, and we did end up watching for preeclampsia really closely just because my swelling was so severe. It was like, it was crazy. So I'm glad to be done with that little portion of pregnancy just because I look much more like myself now, and I'm of course feeling much more like myself now too. So the next symptom I experienced was dizziness, and I think that this was mostly heat related, especially during the last month. I was due August 1st. I ended up having our son July 28th. So I was just a couple of days early, but in Seattle, most people don't have air conditioning, and we did have some pretty significant heat waves for this area, and in general it hit over 100 degrees here, and we have a couple of air conditioning units. I think I've mentioned that before, but it was still pretty rough, and so I think the heat combined with probably not drinking quite enough water, although I was like pretty on top of pushing fluids, I would just get so dizzy, especially when there was no air movement whatsoever. I did end up going into labor and delivery and getting checked out once just because it was so significant, and they found that nothing was wrong really, but just to, you know, keep watching it, whatever, and it never really did improve until I had him, of course. So the next thing I want to talk about for my own memory's sake is having a membrane sweep done. I had one done at 37.5 weeks or something like that, and then 38.5 weeks. Both times I had painful contractions for the rest of the evening, but neither time really like produced any labor. Between my appointments during the last few, I would make some small amount of progress, but whether that was due to the membrane sweep or just my body naturally getting ready for labor, I'm not really sure. I would do it again, but I don't know. I didn't end up getting it done at my 39th week appointment just because it wasn't offered to me, and the day of that appointment I ended up going into labor anyways. So it wasn't really necessary then at that point. So I don't know if you would count that as going into labor on my own. I feel like I would, because the membrane sweeps only, I think it only produces results between like 24 and 48 hours, and they never did those 2 times. It had been a full week since my last one that I went into labor. So I don't know if it would work for other people with subsequent pregnancies. I can totally see myself doing it again, just because at that point you're just so ready to meet your little one and be done with being pregnant. At least I was. So yeah, those were kind of the things that I experienced in my last trimester. I think the worst of all of them was the swelling and the dizziness. But other than that, it wasn't too bad. Nausea did come back a little bit right towards the end, where I would cook something and try to eat, but I just could not get it down. Like, nothing really sounded good, or just I would suddenly get hit with a lot of nauseous feelings, which wasn't really fun, but we're done with that now. So thank goodness. The last thing I want to touch on in this video is my cravings, because I don't think I talked about having cravings in my other videos, and I definitely did have a few. So in my first trimester, I just wanted garlic bread. In my second trimester, I wanted roasted broccoli. And in my third trimester, I wanted lemonade. Was like all that sounded good, which you would think would contribute to the acid reflux, but whether I drank it or not, I seemed to have it, so I would just enjoy it because it was what sounded good. The only like aversion I had was to meat, especially chicken. I would like I said before, I would like make dinner, and you know, of course sometimes that's chicken, and it would sound really good and smell really good the whole time I was making it, and then we would sit down to eat and it was like something would just hit me and I just could not get the chicken down at all. And even in my first and second trimesters, like, I didn't really eat a ton of meat during my pregnancy. For whatever reason, it just did not sound good basically the whole time. So of course I would like try and find other ways to get protein in my diet, and I seemed to do fine, but yeah, that was the only kind of weird aversion that I experienced. All right, so there you have it. There's my third trimester update that I've been owing you guys. Keep a lookout for our birth story that I'm going to be filming and posting soon as well.